What's happening, people? All right, so today we're going to be doing a drain and fill on a 2014 Toyota 4Runner. This drain and fill is going to be for the automatic transmission. There's a lot of steps to it, so I want to go over some of the outline in my opening. First of all, you're going to need to jack up your vehicle. Do that however you see fit. I don't think you really need to do this. You can improvise, and you could probably not jack it up, but I would definitely advise you to jack it up because it gives you enough clearance to crawl underneath and have all of the needed like tools and such in order to complete this job, because there's a lot of things that have to happen. So you jack it up, and then in the following video, you're going to see me go to the transmission pan. The first thing you do is you drain the pan. So you do your drain, right? But before that, you want to make sure that your fill port, your fill bolt plug or whatever that I'll show you loosens out easily. And that's a 24 millimeter socket, so it's going to be a special socket. You're gonna have to, unless you have a really big socket set, your typical socket sets are not gonna have a 24 in them. You take that fill plug out, comes out easily. All right, you take your drain plug out. You have like a measuring device. In mine, I had was it like a 2-gallon, almost like a lemonade thing, but it'll show you on the side 1 quart, 2 quarts, 3 quarts, etc. Something to measure the fluid that's coming out. You want it to be able to measure up to, like, I would say 4 quarts of fluid, so that it doesn't spill over the top of your measuring device. So you want to measure all of the old transmission fluid that comes out. I got a little bit over 3 quarts, and then so I took that old fluid from my measuring device, poured it into my drain pan where I was going to keep all of my old fluid at, and then I washed out my measuring device, wiped it out, and then I filled that same measuring beaker, whatever you want to call it, up to the same line, the same amount of fluid, but with the new transmission fluid. And then what I did was I poured all of that, so it was just a little bit over 3 quarts. And then I poured all of that into a Roundup pump spray type deal, so that it created pressure inside of the canister where all the fluid was at, and it would shoot it up into the fill port in the transmission. You could use a hand pump. I tried to use my hand pump and it wouldn't work for some reason. I was having problems with it, so I had to switch over to a little bit more of a fancier method. Worked out really well. It takes a while. I modified the front or the tip of my Roundup sprayer so that it would actually fit into the place where I needed to get it to. You guys will see that. And I essentially pressed the button down and then locked it open. I locked the nozzle open, and then I would just sit there and pump the Roundup thing and pump it and pump it and pump it until all of the fluid was finally inside of the transmission again. And then I would take it out, put the fill plug back in, turn the 4Runner on, cycled through the gears up and down twice, turned it back off. Don't take too long. Don't spend too much time doing that. Don't spend any more than like 3 or 4 minutes doing that with the vehicle on. You want to keep the fluid cold so that the volume doesn't change, because if it gets hot, it'll expand and the volume increases, and then you're not putting in the same amount of liquid that you're taking out, all that good stuff. And then after that, I turned it off, went back underneath, took the drain plug out again, drained out fluid. I got about 2.5 quarts that time. Did the same procedure. This time I noticed that I would not have enough fluid to do another drain and fill. So I take, instead of just putting the drain plug up, which I accidentally did just put it back up, but what you need to do is you need to put your new crush washer on that drain plug and then put the drain plug up there, tighten it down to 15 foot-pounds, and then go through the procedure of dumping out your old fluid, clean out the beaker, refill it with what I needed, which was 2.5 quarts, and then I put it into my Roundup pump thing. I pumped it all back up into the transmission, and then I pumped in just a little bit more, about 1/4 quart, and then it started kind of spilling out of the fill plug, which I took that as a sign to just stop filling. Pulled my thing out, or my little Roundup thing, and then I put my fill plug back in. I let also at this point, all of the plugs are in, the fill plug's in, the drain plug's in. The drain plugs tightens down, I think it's like 29 foot-pounds, but whenever you tighten it down, you'll feel it when it's good. You can't go too far on that one. You'll definitely feel it when it's tight enough. Turned it on, turned the 4Runner on, let it sit for about 10 minutes until the transmission pan, you really want the fluid to be between 98 and 115 degrees whenever you do your check plug. So I let the pan heat up until my thermal gun read about 95, 96, which the fluid's probably is 2 or 3 degrees hotter on the inside than what a thermal gun pan reading would give you. So at that point it was probably at 98 degrees, which is hot enough to do, to pull the check plug and make sure that you have enough fluid inside of the transmission pan. So at that point I unscrewed my check plug. Also keep in mind there's a crush washer on the check plug that you need to replace whenever you take it off. I let some of that fluid come out. I think I don't know, I probably would have got less than 1/4 quart. And then I replaced the crush washer, put my check plug back up. Right as that fluid will start to come to a drip. And you want to make sure that you do that so that your level is like perfect. Just right as it comes to a drip, put that check plug back up in there. That one is 15 foot-pounds, and it's a 5mm Allen wrench. And then after that, you're good to go. Again, special tools, you'll need your 24mm. That's not really special, but it's definitely not in your standard socket set. Allen keys. One's jacking up the vehicle, for me anyways. Step 2, we're going to loosen the fill port bolt or whatever, and we'll get to that real quick. So I was guessing it's a pretty big bolt. I think it's a 17 or an 18, but I'll show you guys where it's at. So we're on the passenger side right now, and it is hold on, right there, that one. Let's see if I can get one right there. I'm gonna take it out and inspect it. It should say WS on the end of it, and I'll come back to you guys real quick. Okay guys, so we're back. After a trip to the store, I got this came out easily, no problem. But it is a 24mm, so make sure you have that actually have that socket before you do this job. So as you can see, we got our fill plug is out, and it is indeed the correct fill plug because it says WS on it. This is the passenger side. And we are going to take our drain plug out now and see what lovely mixture comes out of there. I made sure to get a container that has, you can see quarts, and then I got a little Sharpie that I can mark all these points with. So like whenever I get done draining this, I'll take my Sharpie and do a little dash, and then just write like the number 1. So I know that was the first drain, because the next time I'll do the same thing, and then that way I know how much to put in there. I need to I was about to say, I'm not entirely sure where this is going to come out at. It's definitely cold, which is good. The way it's supposed to be. That's about 3 quarts right there. Okay, I'm gonna go inside and take a quick intermission and then be right back out. Okay, so as you can see, we're kind of at the drip point. Basically what I'm gonna do, hopefully I can do this with on camera. We have, it's hard to see it on this container, it's got a little block, a little notch for 3 quarts. I'm just gonna do my Sharpie right where, you guys gonna miss that, right above, right where that's at, and then write the number 1 for first, the first thing, and then I'm gonna pour this into my regular drain pan, and then clean this container out, and then fill this container with new stuff all the way up to that mark, and then hand pump it in, turn the 4Runner on, go through the gears a couple cycles, and then turn it back off, and then drain it back, and then re-drain it again, and do this and just repeat this process. Okay, so I had to go to the store again. I got a roundup thing so I could stick this thing up in here and basically spray it into the system. Now I gotta get this out. Let me show you guys how I modified my roundup sprayer here. So I just cut the end off of the long tube, and then I kind of pushed this between the heat shield and the exhaust pipe, and then just like, I really had to push it into that fill hole. You guys can press this handle down and push it forward, and that locks it open, and then you can just literally sit on a chair out here and just pump until all the fluid is back up in there. It takes a little while, but it works. So that is what I did. So now I'm going to put my fill plug back up here, just hand tight, and then let's see, guys are sitting on top of a transmission fluid container, and I'm just going to screw this back in where it goes. I've got my my drain plug is already back where it's supposed to be. And then I'm going to turn it on, cycle through the gears, come back down, and re-drain and refill. Just repeat the process all over again. Cycling through the gears.
Hey, your mama there. Well, make sure you tell her we're asking about her. Your country, 95.1 WRNS.
Back to reverse, neutral, drive, back to neutral, reverse, and back to park. And cut it off. Okay, so we've finally gotten through our refilling process here. And I'm about to go through the check procedure. So I'm going to get this area cleaned up a little bit, and then I'll get back to you guys on that. So one tip before I do this check, I'm actually going to put about half a quart more of fluid into the transmission, so that whenever I do close that fill port up, and then let this run and get up to, it needs to be between like 98 and 115 degrees Fahrenheit before you can actually check it, before you can even pull the check plug. So I'm going to put a little bit more in, let it sit for a little bit until it gets warmed up, and then once it gets in between that range that we want, I will pull this plug. We'll have some fluid drain out, and then it'll start to trickle a little bit, and then we'll just put this plug back up, and that'll be that, and we'll be done. All right, guys, so we're right about at the temperature that we need to be in order to check this. So here we go. On the, let's see, I'll show you guys. It's like 93, 94, 95. For the pan temperature, that's going to put us where we need to be, because it's going to be a little bit lower than the actual temperature. Again, this is a Allen key 5mm right into this port. You'll see it's literally got the word check on it. And then when we take this out, we should get some drippage, a little bit more than drippage. Replace your crush washer real quick. Wait for it. Start trickling a little bit more. I'll plug it right there. Good for me, guys. Oh dear. All right, so I'm gonna cut it off and then set it down off the jacks, but and get everything cleaned up. But that's how you do that process. Basically just drain it while it's cold, refill it cold, cycle through the gears just a couple times. Don't keep it running for too long, because you want to keep it cold. Drain it again, refill it, drain it again, refill it, as many times as you can, really. I mean, I had 8 quarts of fluid, and I was only able to do 2 cycles, just because on the 3rd cycle I knew I wouldn't have enough to refill it, and you don't want to get into that situation where that ran out of the store again. Yeah, again, I think I ran to the store twice. Once to get a 24mm socket, and the second time was to get that stinking Roundup thing right there, so that I could like pump the fluid into the fill hole, which actually worked out really well. Definitely recommend that. $14 for the roundup thing. Wasn't too much for the socket, obviously. Your 24 millimeter is not going to come in your standard socket set. It's gonna, unless you get a really fancy socket set. But that's that. I'm going to take it off the jacks, take it out for a ride, make sure everything feels good, and that's going to be the end. So thanks for watching, guys. Please comment, subscribe, like the video. We'll have more car videos to come. I've got some stuff on my Tundra that I'm gonna have to be doing here soon. I definitely like to do that over the winter time, so stay tuned.